The couple that I'm referring to, he was very healthy and fit. And I mean, he went off to do a hardcore hiking trip, something that only very experienced like climbers do. She was not that at all. She felt that this trip might be the last time she could tackle the kind of trip they were doing. So we are talking a couple with very different physical abilities and different health levels and different things going on in their lives. And you've got to hit it on the mark, right? With your partner from a health perspective.
Welcome to the Healthy and Wealthy Retirement, where your certified retirement counselor Mark Struthers takes a holistic approach to retirement, going beyond finances and embracing holistic well-being. This YouTube channel will address not just the financial part of retirement, but also the social, the physical, and the emotional parts of retirement. Everything you need for healthier, a wealthier, and a happier retirement.
Welcome to the Healthy and Wealthy Retirement. My name is Mark Struthers, and I'm glad you're here. And I think you'll be glad too. When it comes to financial planning, I'm not always the favorite person that someone wants to talk to. I was sitting across the table from a couple this week, a couple of days ago, and we were talking estate planning. We were in their dining room, and they said, Mark, we hate this. And I'm never really surprised, and I'm actually flattered that they felt open enough to confide in me that they did hate talking about estate planning. It's not unusual. One of them even said, you're like going to the dentist. We know we have to do it, but we really don't like it. And I get it. That's part of my job. But after doing financial plans for so many people, after so many years, during conversations, you notice a theme. And one theme when we're talking about goals and what retirement looks like and things that they want to do, body language changes, their eyes light up, their posture opens up, and they actually want to start talking. And one of the main things that they want to talk about is travel. I honestly think for some people, it gets them through some of the darkest points in their career as they say, someday we will be able to take the trips we want to take. And today's guest is going to help you do just that. In order to have that healthy, wealthy, and happier retirement, for many of you, travel is going to be a major factor. And today's guest, Megan Padilla, is a veteran travel journalist and the founder of Advisor and Pen, where she helps leaders and brands tell authentic stories. For 25 years, Megan has explored the world on assignment for outlets like Photos, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, Megan, Travel Weekly, Success, and Minnesota Monthly, blending personal narrative with practical travel insight. She also shares her own travel wisdom and inspiration on Instagram at Travels with Meg. And we'll put her information so you can follow her. She's a good follow. I would definitely check her out in the show notes. A lifelong traveler, Megan brings a wealth of experience to today's conversation about how to plan meaningful travel in the next stage of your life. And planning is all about making better decisions. And that goes with anything, but especially with something as important with travel. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm happy to be here.
We start off all of our conversations with asking, what do you do? And more importantly, why do you do it? Why do you do what you do?
Well, I have been writing about travel for media outlets for 25 years. And what led me to it, it was actually my second career, but I had a realization back in the 90s. My husband and I had toured the country for a year and a half. He was performing in a Broadway tour. We toured all over the country. And then while he went to do another show, I went to Europe and traveled and had my Europe experience for 6 months. And by the time we returned to New York City, I had been living on the road for 2 years. And this is in the early stage of email. And I would send, these missives off to my very small email list at the time. And after I came back, people really responded and they, told me, I've printed out your email and I would read it to my husband or I'd share it at work. And what really excited me the most was not having somebody say, I want to do exactly what you did. I wanted them to be inspired by what I wrote and I wanted them to take their own trip. So what really excited me was when, a friend of mine, for instance, told me, I had this dream. I wanted to go to Germany and I thought I would do it in 5 years, but you've got me so excited. I'm going to go now. And he did. And he shared a lot of his trip with me. And I got so excited by that and the power to inspire people to do these things. So that's actually really why I do what I do. I'm incredibly curious. I love the feeling of being on the road. I love to be at home as well. I've tried to figure out how to hold both truths at the same time, but I really love to spur people towards their own travel dreams. So that's why I do what I do.
And that sounds pretty rewarding. I mean, I love what I do, and part of it is I'm a numbers guy, but it must be fulfilling where people they financial plan because they have to. They travel because they want to. That's a big difference.
I do get excited too when people do a trip that I did, and I know that it was direct result of following me on Instagram and seeing my stories when they come out. And I always welcome people to send me questions. So I'll give an example. I'm in a local buy nothing group on Facebook in my neighborhood. And I came back from a trip to Churchill, Manitoba to see the Northern Lights a few years ago. And I had this beautiful silk scarf that was painted. It was hand painted and had a polar bear on it. It was a gift, but I thought I am never going to actually use this. So I put it on my Buy Nothing group. And this woman reached out to me and said, this is my dream to go there. This is what I gave her the scarf. And the next year she actually booked the same trip I did. And she went up there and she had she went to see the polar bears. I went to do Northern Lights, but it was so exciting to me that she actually did that trip. And it started with that exchange on Buy Nothing.
Thank you, Megan. That was a great story. And we like to entertain, but we're still a financial planning YouTube channel and podcast. So when it comes to travel, how should people plan for this? How should they think about it? How should they approach it from a travel expert's perspective?
Well, I tend to think that if people have been traveling all of their lives, they have a good sense of what they spend on travel and how they want to travel in retirement. And if I think they've been planning for that all along. So I'm going to speak to your listeners more from the perspective of people who maybe have not had the time to travel or have been, locked into demanding jobs and families and just haven't had the opportunities, but they're looking forward to it. So I want to sort of start from that perspective. From a financial perspective, if somebody has already approached their retirement planning of this is how much I want to have per year. What I hear a lot of people talk about are, taking, what are they called when it starts with a D? Disbursements?
Yes.
What's that word? Am I using the right word? Distribution. That's it. Yeah. Definitely.
About your side of the industry, I don't know the terminology, but yes.
Yeah. So
distributions.
Yes, like an RMD I think that I definitely hear people decide to take a distribution, maybe even take a big one to do like a bucket list trip, because these are the dollar figures that are well outside of your annual, your annual budget. Particularly if you haven't been traveling all along and you haven't been accommodating for that expense throughout your working life.
You're not used to it. Some of these trips can have very large price tags. And I will give an example. I was down in, I did a really cool trip in Patagonia last year, and it was they called it a small ship expedition style cruise. And they generally, that category has approximately a maximum 200 passengers. And this trip went through the fjords of Patagonia between Chile and Argentina, and I did it round trip. I met a woman from Australia on that ship, and she and her husband had just gone to Antarctica. They did a 21-day trip to Antarctica. When they returned to South America, he went to do a big hiking expedition, and she did this trip that I was on. She actually took out, a significant amount of money. I think around $100,000 to do that trip.
Yeah, now that might have been Australian dollars, but this was, she thought this was my husband's dream to do this Antarctica trip. And like they were in, that part of the hemisphere for about a month, and they just went all in. Now, I think that's on the outer edge of somebody, taking a big slice out of their portfolio and putting it all down. That's like playing all your chips. So that's bucket list, big trip, big price tag.
Kind of a one-off. I hope
Yes.
the folks that are listening, even if you're going to do this, talk to your financial planner so we can do it in a tax-wise manner. But we talk a lot about return on memories, ROM. So the idea that all planners are going to look down upon you for doing something like that just isn't true. We might live until 90, but we might only have really 10 or 15 good years. So I think what you described is something that people should probably at least talk about or explore, right?
They absolutely should. And they should really have these conversations with their partners, because the couple that I'm referring to, he was very healthy and fit. And I mean, he went off to do a hardcore hiking trip, something that only very experienced like climbers do. She was not that at all. Like she felt that this trip might be the last time she could tackle the kind of trip they were doing. So we are talking a couple with very different physical abilities and different health levels, different things going on in their lives. And you've got to hit it on the mark, right? With your partner.
Yeah.
From a health perspective.
And I think that applies to so many things. Because that's understandable. We get wrapped up in our work and kids. And sometimes they're so busy just doing life, adulting, that they never sit down to have these conversations, not just about travel, but travel is one of those things where I've had couples sit across from me and all of a sudden, sometimes an argument, but their jaws drop because the other partner never told them what they wanted to do. They never, like you said, they've never had these conversations.
I'm a big believer that not only is travel like absolutely the best balm to living, but I'm also a big believer in the value of change of scenery. So, even small trips, even just going to the next town on a Sunday drive, I think that's also got a lot of value to it as well. So everything doesn't have to be getting on a ship to Antarctica. So I do want to make that clear. But I want to talk about, I often think about a travel in three budgets almost. Like there's an independent traveler. These are people when you want to you need the best value possible or you can't do it. Okay. And to be an independent traveler, you are probably doing all of the research yourself. You are making yourself well-informed. You are reading, you are following different media outlets or bloggers, or, you are finding your trusted sources. You're flagging things. You're a very highly organized person. You are educating yourself about travel deals and costs and seasons and when to go. And you're asking people, like, you are really jumping in to do the job yourself. And you are going to book that trip yourself. And you're probably going to make a lot of trade-offs along the way, and you're going to be fine with them because you'll say, that's not important to me to eat at a Michelin-starred restaurant. However, I do want to have a private guide at, the Colosseum in Rome, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to make these decisions about what is important and where you want to splash out.
I'm guessing for that kind of person, they might, because I know some people just love that. Some people are do-it-yourself with finance or other things almost because they have to or they're thrifty. Some people that you described, I think my wife would fall in that category. She loves it. She will gladly just stare at the computer for hours doing that. Is that fair to say?
100%. And for many people, that part of the trip is as pleasurable as actually going on the trip. But that's not for everyone.
No. That's not for me.
No. And so the next level then is maybe, I'm going to say it's kind of this mid-level. And this person, I would say you can spend a little bit more, but maybe you really just don't have the time to be doing all of this research. I think this person is going to be more likely to choose some sort of group travel or something where you sign up, like going on a cruise. And remember, there are all kinds of cruises. Cruises are not one size fit all. There are very high ratio crew to traveler. There are low passenger ships. There is everything. So please don't ever say I'm not a cruiser, because I bet that unless you get terribly seasick, there's probably a ship to match everybody.
And that's good to have for clients going forward, because I have lots of people who say, I'm not a cruiser. They won't look at them. They won't do anything with them.
Yeah, because I think they get this idea of the 7,000 people on the icon of the seas. And personally, I mean, you could not pay me to get on a ship like that. Like, no way. That wouldn't be me either. But once I started giving some of these other options a shot, I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. I've now done a variety, and I would say, like, oh, this is actually pretty fun. I would do more of this for sure. And a lot of brands are definitely going upscale, and, but a very approachable brand that is fun that I like is Virgin Voyages. And children can't be on the ship. It's 18 plus. And I describe it as like a boutique hotel, but it's a ship. And I just love the feeling of being on that ship and just having everything included and getting to just feel just indulged and go out to eat every night and read a book in a really pretty little space somewhere on my balcony, or ordering, shaking my phone and getting a bottle of champagne brought to me wherever I am on the ship, or I don't know. I find all that very fun.
I think we all have great visual images right now. That I already feel more relaxed, and I'm still in Edina, Minnesota.
Yeah.
I like the word approachable. Because someone like me who might be intimidated by some of the fancy people, the approachable aspect, is that correct? That it's nice, but yet still not intimidating?
Yes. And I definitely fall more in the approachable category. Like, I don't want to pack a big suitcase full of a bunch of outfits, and I want to kind of go places as I am. Like, so I fit myself in there. Like, I want to feel like myself when I travel. Some people, though, want the opportunity to dress up every day and have a whole travel wardrobe. I like to go as light as possible. But I think approachable is also a feeling that what you're buying is something that you can feel good about. And you didn't feel like this was like, I just spent the bank on it, and if it doesn't deliver, I'm going to be so disappointed. I think that you should feel good about whatever you spend on the trip. But when you get on the plane to get to that destination, you should feel good about it from the minute you get going. Like, there should not be some part of you that's like, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I spent that much. If that's how you're feeling, then you probably, I would recommend that you have to sit with some of this in advance before you pull the trigger. And so for me, approachable is about feeling really good about, there's a little bit of level of thinking about the cost, but you're also thinking about, what am I getting for it? And is it going to check my boxes and meet my needs? There's one more category up from that, though, and that would definitely be luxury.
Before we go into luxury, so approachable sounds a lot like having value. And I think not having that anxiety and having value, in order to get there, you could obviously do things yourself, much like with financial planning, can help you take away the anxiety that I can take this trip without feeling guilty. It gives you permission, if you will, to enjoy yourself. Does having an advisor in the travel industry, does that do much the same thing?
Absolutely. And in fact, I think that approachable level that I'm talking about, that's a good place at which to engage a travel advisor. And I would relate it to what you do. I mean, if somebody wants to manage all of their financial planning, that's a certain type of person. But then there's when people start to realize the value of working with a wealth advisor, a financial planner, to really think about the length of their life and how to manage their assets in the best possible way to get the greatest return and have long-term thinking, they're putting their trust in you, and they pay for the service. And same with a travel advisor. So there is a myth about travel advisors, and that is that they work on commission and that they generally work for free, but that they get paid on commission. That's not really the case. It was the case, but that whole industry has changed, especially it's really bounced back after COVID. But of course, that industry completely crumbled, it was challenged before COVID because of everybody did everything online. COVID really killed it, but it's actually had a huge comeback since, because what travel advisors do is they bring so much value to the table. They can help you in so many ways. And the first thing is, I have a very trusted travel advisor I go to, and her name is Susan Moynihan. Susan tells me that time is the thing that most of her clients, that's the value they get in working with her. They save time. So money isn't the part. It's not, I save time and money. It's mostly I save time, but I'm going to get the most value for the money I spend.
Really good point, Megan. It's not just the money, it's time. And especially with a lot of working professionals who have worked so hard to get here, they don't want to spend so much time planning a trip or doing the research. Even someone like my wife, who might spend 50 hours to plan a 40-hour trip, even if she does that and she might enjoy it, she might not have the confidence that she is getting the good value for her money, that this is something. She still might have anxiety as she's taking the trip, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know, even if you made the right decision, can that professional just kind of relieve some of that anxiety, help give you the confidence, the permission to enjoy yourself, because it increased the probability that you feel comfortable with your decision.
Yes. And you hit the nail on the head in terms of a large piece of the value proposition and working with a travel advisor. Like you said, you don't know what you don't know. And one thing that they're great at is knowing who to go to in a destination to get a unique experience. They know things like you've been on a 12-hour flight to Asia and you land and it's hot and humid. They know the right car service that has English-speaking drivers and air-conditioned cars, right? Like, those are little things that make a huge difference. And when you have an easy, soft landing into your experience, everything goes better, right?
Nice pun. And like you said, you've spent so much time and money looking forward to and planning this trip. Those little things, if you're a little more relaxed, a little more comfortable, a little more well-rested, you're probably going to enjoy your trip that much more.
Yes. Some other things that they are great at is brainstorming with you. It's like, they're not just, if you want them just to plan a trip for you and you're like, great, but they're actually wonderful at brainstorming with their clients to get a sense of what is it you want to do, who's going, what season do you want to go in? And like, what are some of the things that would make a trip really memorable for you? And then they can start, and they're actually incredibly well informed. I was just reading a magazine that came to my house a few days ago. It's from a very high-end travel advisor membership group called Virtuoso. So high-end properties and different tour operators belong to Virtuoso. And certain travel advisors only work with Virtuoso properties. So this is very, very, if you go through the Virtuoso path, everything's going to work great. That's kind of guaranteed. But anyway, I was reading an article about some new ships coming out in 2026, and one is by the Four Seasons. And it is a first in its class type ship. And when I was reading the description, I thought, oh my gosh, this is like off the charts, like amazing. And they even have a suite. I believe it has a 4-bedroom suite. This is not something you typically get, especially on a maximum 200 passenger ship. And I thought, this is the kind of a travel advisor knows what's coming. They know what's one of a kind. They know what's first in its class. And unless you are a travel junkie or you are, a frequent traveler who is a member of, like if you're already in the Four Seasons Club and you're getting their magazines and emails and all that, sure, maybe you're going to know about it. But if you're busy, a travel advisor, that's their job to know what is coming up and what might be a good fit for their clients. But every trip doesn't have to be that with them. See, they're really great at like meshing all of the parts of your trip together. So you don't really have to worry about anything. They typically are going to charge a fee. They are going to probably charge, and I don't know the number. I imagine they're all different, and I'm not a travel advisor, but they will charge a planning fee. And if they're booking flights for you, they also charge a flight booking fee. But here's why it's worth paying all of any of these fees, especially in today where so much is happening that's beyond our control in the act of traveling. They can work on your behalf to make sure that when you run into a problem, they can jump in and they can help you. And especially that, oh my gosh, they are an advocate. They have a phone line to the best customer service that you can't access. Like, these people are going to help you every step of the way if you let them and you engage them.
And I like you made reference to this when you're talking about dealing with any professional, and you can do it yourself. And like you said, if you're a junkie, but when this is all they do, you think about your own profession, you know so much about your profession because this is pretty much all you do. In the case of travel folks too, it might even be their hobby. So chances are they're going to know more than you do. They're going to bring a value that you can't do because this isn't your life.
Correct. And travel advisors, it would definitely be their full-time job. So I think we've established that there's a lot of value there for working with them. But another area that I think fits your listener are multi-generational trips. This has become a big deal. And especially for people getting ready to retire, newly retired, and, they're financially secure. A lot of people are focusing on experiences over stuff, and they want to create core experiences with their children and grandchildren. And they want to find the right opportunities to go and do something together. And this is another place where a travel advisor is a great person because they really excel at group travel and all of the moving pieces and all of the special accommodations that come from.
And with multiple generation, I will say, now that you say this, I do have a lot of retired clients at all different levels who have done these trips recently. That this was something they took a lot of pride in doing it. And like you said, they wanted to get the ROM, the return on memories, rather than just buying some stuff. And this was a way to do it.
Yeah, writing gift checks.
The role as a travel advisor is not like a financial planner. You have all these competing forces. You have estate planning, tax and stuff. You have all these different things that they're putting together and make sure it works well. Is that a fair analogy?
Yes. And, another thing that's great, when you have a group trip, or say it's a wedding, a destination wedding, and I think that probably fits your clients as well, as being parents of children getting married and planning these big outings, which seems to be much more and more the trend. Sometimes when you have a group traveling together, somebody has a special need, but they don't want to make it a problem for the key stakeholder, the key planner. When you have a travel advisor, it gives everybody somebody they can go to, and they can take, they don't have to put their problem in front of somebody else.
The more I think about it, that would be a great advantage, one I didn't think of, actually. Continue.
Yeah. And sometimes I think, travel advisors, really? You want to take this on? But it is part of what they do, and it is part of the value that they offer. And so I would never plan a group trip without a travel advisor, to be honest. There's just too many parts. Too many people have their own needs, and it all can come together really beautifully that way. And I think it's definitely worth paying that little bit extra to pull that off.
Yeah. What value do you put on them to smooth things over, not just for a group, but especially when you talk about family?
So I want to talk about, a question that is asked of me often is, how do I find flights, and how do I book flights? So we're moving away from travel advisor, though before we leave them, I will say, if you work with a travel advisor and let them book, they might charge you. I truly don't know the amount, but it's not that much money. And you have a great person to get you, to help you out along the way. But here's what I'd like to tell you.
Before we move on, do you have any one main takeaway or tip for those who are planning these multi-generational trips?
I'll start with, I think you have to think about, my main takeaway is you need to first figure out who's going and what are people's general needs. You should be a little bit prepared to go to that travel advisor and know who all's going, where do they live, where's everybody starting out from? What kind of experiences do you want to have as a family? Some families are going to be happy for everyone to go off and do their own thing all day, but they want to be able to come together for dinner every night. Other people are going to want to do the activities together all day. So I think you have to have an idea of what matters and what's important in your family group.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think the more self-awareness you have about what matters to you, the better outcome you're going to have in finding the right fit.
Thank you, Megan. That was great. So Megan, what do you get asked most often? Because unlike people rarely come up to me and ask, what's your favorite tax plan strategy? People, I'm sure, come up and ask you all the time about travel. What are some of the things that you get asked the most often?
The first one I always get asked is, what's my favorite place I've ever been? I cannot answer that question. I find everywhere interesting, and I will often say some of my highlight trips, like South Africa has been a highlight trip. Okay, but the next question I get asked often is, where do I search for flights and how do I book my flights? And the third one I get asked is about travel insurance and health insurance.
Yes, I hear that too.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in on the flights because we all book flights, right? I don't think anyone's listening to this podcast who doesn't have to book flights at some point.
Oh, yeah.
If you've never booked a flight, you're probably not listening to this in the first place.
Probably in a cab somewhere in remote Alaska. But
even then, you've got to go places. So
yeah. Or maybe they book a steamer ship like from back in the old days, like Titanic or something. Go ahead. So I always start with Google Flights. You literally type at the top of your browser, Google Flights, and the page opens. Sometimes I don't know where I even want to go. So my husband and I always do this together, especially if it's a family trip that we want to take. So for us, I'm going to give you a typical situation for us. My high school age daughter has a 2-week spring break and has since 7th grade. Her school has offered this, and we have used this as we've really committed to international travel for that 2 weeks because it's long enough to go somewhere and spend the money on the flights and have time to be in that location. And we can often choose shoulder seasons and get lower prices and fewer crowds. This is important to us. So we start about right now, November. We start in Google Flights, and we would typically put in our destination airport, and then you can actually write anywhere, and you put your travel dates or a chunk of dates. And the first thing that happens is a map comes up and it just starts populating dollar figures to different parts of the world. Yeah, so we kind of use that as our very first tool. And then we start zeroing in, and we tend to do this together. We have fun doing this. Like he'll be on his, I'm on mine, and we start sharing what we're finding. If we see a great deal that's somewhere we've been thinking about, we're like, oh, wow, did you see that? So we start zeroing in. The next stage of our travel exploration for flights is to dial it in and just start actually looking at what the flights are. So looking to see how long it takes, how many connections, where is the connection, how long is the connection. We've learned for us, whenever we travel abroad, we like to get our first international flight out of our home city and not connect in the United States. So we like to get that first long haul flight out of the way first, connect somewhere else if possible, and finish the trip on the back end. Yes. So that's what we like to do. So we're always looking for one connection with the international flight out of our home airport. So we start educating ourselves about what flights are out there to the place we want to go. What do the routes look like? What is the investment of our time and comfort going to be? And what are the flights? And Google also has a little tool that says if the price for the flight is how it compares to a typical price. It'll say, this prices right now are low, prices right now are high, whatever. So this is how we start our planning. Now, lots of people use all sorts of third-party tools like Google Flights, but I never ever book through Google Flights. I never ever book through TripAdvisor, or that's not even one. TripAdvisor is the one you book a flight through. Whatever
Don't book anything through the third-party app. Use the apps to guide you as research. Once you zero in on what you think you're going to do, now is the time to go directly and open the browser for that airline or that hotel property and try to book directly through that app. And the reason why is you have no power if something goes wrong, particularly with airlines and airline travel, when you've booked through a third-party app. If your flight is canceled and you have to rebook, the airline doesn't rebook you first. They rebook you last. They're going to book their customers first.
Because you went through the third party.
Yes. And truly, the prices are generally the same with the airline. So my takeaway here is use all the apps to educate yourself and see what's out there, but book directly with the airline or the hotel if possible.
General direction, but
yes.
Actually enter the harbor, you need to go other places other than.
Yes. But another thing I will tell you is that we just did this. We are traveling to Italy in a week, and we zeroed in on a route that takes us to Florence. It is a Delta flight, but it is a code share with KLM. When I looked at, and I am a Delta frequent, Delta user, but when I went to book it through Delta, the way that they have now set up their travel classes, we would have had to spend $400 more just to be able to book a seat in advance. We would have had to go up to their sort of next category. And so what we did is I went to the KLM site. That's the partner site. And I ended up looking on KLM and I got the ticket. We paid about $400 less for our tickets and got a category that lets us, book our seats and so you have to just take a little bit of time and do some comparisons. But again, this goes back to, being an independent traveler, and I'm comfortable doing that. But I've definitely learning that there are some savings to be had to book on the non-US airlines.
That's great, Megan. You mentioned you often travel, you plan very early for your spring break trips. With the holiday season coming up, do you have any tips for those folks who are starting to plan their trips, or should they plan their trips now?
I've had great luck and outcomes booking our flights on Travel Tuesday. Travel Tuesday happens the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. This year, it happens on December 2nd, and it is the travel industry's response to Cyber Monday. Okay, so a lot of the deals
are really a great.
Yes. But the way you're going to get the deals is you have to be prepared. You need to know, where do I want to go? Unless you're wide open. But if you have a few ideas in mind, I think it's best this is why I start now. We start thinking about where might we want to go? Where are we looking? We try to educate ourselves. What are the fares? And we check often enough so that when it comes to Travel Tuesday, and often a lot of these fares start being available on Monday. So I actually am pretty committed to being available on the Monday and Tuesday to really look at what's out there, to read my emails. I get a lot of notifications. I think the general person may not, but if you belong to, loyalty programs or you stay at certain hotel properties, they're going to definitely be sending you their Travel Tuesday deals. And there are some great ones.
Mailing list.
Yes, it is actually a good time to be on the mailing list. And if you're starting to look at things right now and you have the option to sign up for things, I would just go ahead and say yes. You can unsubscribe later. This is the time to receive the information and be paying attention. And as you search, as we all know, it's like, computer seems to hear every thought we have. And as soon as they know you're looking, you're going to start getting those.
Because you get more information.
Yeah. So for us, I have definitely multiple times ended up finding our best price on a Travel Tuesday. And what I like to say is I've done enough research that when I see the deal and I see the flights, my husband and I both say, that's a great price. Let's lock it in. Let's do it.
And it comes down to planning, just like with financial planning and research, because if you haven't done the planning, you probably have some insecurity about pulling the trigger.
Yes.
Like drinking from a fire hose, that even if you think it might be a good deal in the back of your mind. Well, I don't know. And that hesitation could cost you.
Was last year, we didn't find a deal on Travel Tuesday that we were happy with, and we actually kind of just let it go. And I think we didn't end up booking tickets till January. And we considered not even doing the trip because the flights were getting so expensive. And when you're traveling, with 3 people, the flight, there's a big difference between getting a ticket for $600 per person or $1,200 per person.
Yeah.
So
Multiplier effect. Oh, great.
The multiplier is definitely there. So, I consider that. But okay, so the next thing I would like to talk about then would be insurance. Number 3 is insurance. Every time that you do book, I know that you rent a car, you go to check out with that airplane ticket, you go to pay for that hotel reservation, you are always asked if you want to pay an extra fee to insure that part of your trip. Okay, here's my advice. Say no. Just say no. This is a blanket no, okay? But it's not no because you don't need travel insurance. It's a no because there's a better way to get travel insurance that covers your whole trip, not just the one piece of your trip. Okay, you are overpaying for the insurance that comes with the a la carte parts of your travel. Okay. So here's my next tip.
Okay.
Once I've booked the significant pieces, the airfare, and let's just say the main part of my hotel or vacation rental or whatever, those are kind of the 2 big pieces. And maybe I've booked a few. Oh, another thing on Travel Tuesday might be to book some great tours in the location you're going. And you can get some deals there on really kind of more luxury, small group, private, really unique experiences. Those aren't inexpensive, but they often have 20% off on Travel Tuesday. So I definitely
approachable.
Yes. And once, for me, once I could say, yes, I want to do that and I pay for it, it gives me between November and March to pay off most of my trip. And when we go on the spring break international trip, we're already going with it's paid for. It's paid for. And I really like to have the big pieces paid for up front.
So if they say no to the travel insurance, and it sounds like they book it, and then is it automatically included, or where do they go to get?
No, so this is what I do. I go to a website called Insure My Trip. One word. insuremytrip.com. You can ultimately select multiple insurance options to compare, and then you start deleting them till you're down to comparing the 2. I pick one. That's it. So here's what I love about Insure My Trip. Just like any travel insurance, it's going to cover everyone traveling with me. So in my family, that's going to be my husband, myself, my daughter. I'm going to ultimately buy us a piece of insurance that covers our whole family for the duration of our trip. And it will cover all those things. It's going to cover the airfare, the hotel, the main tour components, anything that I have prepaid for that I worry that I might not get back. You don't want to overpay for you don't want to buy so much insurance that you're actually paying for something that you would have gotten back anyway. You need to think about what parts of this are non-refundable of this trip.
You don't want to overinsure.
Don't overinsure. But here's the thing. These are some components. This isn't just about protecting the amount you paid to go on the trip. This is also to cover you for your medical insurance while you travel. Maybe being evacuated for a major medical emergency.
Oh, okay.
This may be being evacuated if there is terrorism. And then there's also a lot of built-in things if you have travel delays or lost luggage. And these are all things that I look at.
Absolutely.
I'm not so worried about terrorism going to Europe, but, we did a trip to Peru just on the heels of civil unrest. The country had been closed for about a full month. I mean, the airports were fully closed. Everything was closed. And I was a little okay, we need to make sure we can leave easily if things flare up. So that's when I started paying.
Anxiety around you, it's worth paying the insurance premium.
Well, and guess what? It doesn't even cost extra. It's just a line item in the policy. So this is something I didn't even know was built into some policies. And I was like, this is great.
So from the point where you book the trip and tours and everything, how soon after should they do the insurance right afterwards? If they wait too long, will they not insure it? Is there any time frames around between booking the trip and buying the insurance?
So yes, it is better to purchase some insurance soon after you've made your major purchases because you want to make sure that you're covered. The sooner you buy it, the better coverage, the better you're protected. Because there are things that you just don't know. Like if a loved one gets sick or dies, that's an immediate family member, that is grounds for being able to cancel your trip and get back the portion that you're covered for. But another thing you can do, say you don't know how much you're going to spend, you can buy the policy. And then as you add on to planning and paying for more, you can go back and increase the coverage of that plan. Okay, so
very flexible. So you could even get some of the insurance beforehand.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. And I will tell you, as a travel journalist, there are times when I am hosted on a trip and I have a very small amount that I'm paying to actually do this travel out of my own pocket. But I still buy insurance because I want to make sure that I am covered for health. I want to make sure, people think nothing's going to happen to me. You do not know if you are going to be in a car accident. You do not know if you are going to fall off a curb and break an ankle. I mean, there are so many things that you do not know. You don't know if you're going to have, heart pain and need to go to the hospital and have tests. Like, we don't know these things.
No.
Any different at home or abroad.
A little bit older, you're more prone to those sort of things. And do you want those hanging over your head? Do you want that anxiety?
I would never say to go. I would not tell anyone that is a listener or a client of yours to go on a trip without travel insurance, particularly an international trip. Okay. So this is just, if you walk away from this podcast and you hear one thing, it is definitely you want the travel insurance. It's a very small amount of money. Okay. It really is. And a travel advisor, they will guide you. They are experts. I am not an expert, but I'm well informed.
And so that's where they add value as well. Perfect.
They really do. But when you go to buy it, you will open up once you kind of, you're looking for things like some will be a secondary policy. And it's not going to kick in until they've looked at your own health insurance that you have first. I prefer ones that are primary policies. I don't want, my home insurance is going to take every chance possible to not pay. So I'm always going to look for the one that's just going to cover me.
That's great, Megan. I'm sure lots of people are listening and they're thinking, well, this all sounds good, but do you have any companies that you like? Given you're the expert, where should they start to look? What are some main companies that you really advocate for?
Well, I don't want someone to get nervous when I have mentioned earlier some really big ticket tour companies. But what I've learned over the years is that there are amazing travel and tour companies who have been in business for decades, sometimes multiple generations. They really know what they're doing. They have built travel relationships in all of the destinations they go to. And they really create trips that are going to appeal to specific types of travelers. So what I want you to understand is that there is a tour operator out there who has a trip that matches you and your travel partners, your travel companions. Some of those that I really like I'm going to start on an independent traveler. Say you're an independent traveler, but you don't want to do all the work and you just want it to kind of be handed to you and you want to know you're going to have a great time. I really recommend the Rick Steves tours. I know travel writers who've retired and they and their partner go on Rick Steves trips all the time. And you might think like they have traveled many of these places already. I have never met anyone who didn't love a Rick Steves tour. And people who choose that, you're going to be carrying your bag, but it's going to be a smaller, I'm not exactly sure of the numbers, but let's say it's probably not more than 20 people in a group. And you're not all doing everything together all the time, but that is how they're moving you through an itinerary. And I think there's a lot of camaraderie and there's a lot of shared just like how people look out on their lives. And that is kind of what happens when you choose a tour company well, is you're going to find like-minded travelers and build friendships and enjoy traveling with these people. And they're also a good option for people traveling on their own and to feel that they have a built-in, travel companions, people you can have dinner with, but you aren't necessarily, you don't have to spend every minute with them all day. So Rick Steves is a great place for that type of person. I also really recommend Backroads. Backroads has been in business forever. When I look through their catalog offerings, honestly, I want to take every single trip in that book. They're out of my price point. Okay. But I definitely is something I would like to revisit. And as I'm do my own retirement planning, I would love to do more Backroads trips. Backroads trips are definitely more active, and they do a lot of things that might be like bicycle touring. Bicycle touring has become so popular, especially with e-bikes, and it's really quite accessible to everyone. And, when you have a great tour company who's planning all of the logistics and the route, and they're putting you in nice, interesting properties with interesting experiences where you're meeting locals along the way and having those very unique, cultural and food, experiences. That's a great way to go. Backroads is also a nice choice for multi-gen travel because there's a little bit of something for everyone. Okay. And now we're going to kind of move up the dial a little bit. Tauk Travel is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. They do trips all over the world. They do land-based trips is how they started, but they've moved into river cruising. I did one of their river cruises this summer in Europe. It was the itinerary was called Prague to Paris. It was called Europeans' Romantic Capitals. It included a visit to Luxembourg. It was a wonderful trip, and we had a lot of challenges that were beyond Tauk's control. The big one was that the rivers had been very hot in June and the rivers were very low. And there was some concern till the very last minute that the river wasn't high enough for the ship. It worked out, but it took almost a week for the ship to catch up to its planned itinerary, and they had to pivot a lot. We had to use a lot of coach buses to actually get into the cities that we planned to dock at some point in the trip. Another ship had damaged one of the locks, and nothing could get through. And they had to change a lot of things. But what I want to tell you about this company is that they handled this so beautifully that you almost wouldn't know that you were having a trip quite different than the one that was planned.
Wow.
You get what you pay for. And Tauk will be real. Mark, the price tag for the trip I did was around, give or take, I think it was about $13,000 per person in double occupancy. So we're talking $1,000 trip.
Wow.
What I want to say, though, almost everything was included, including luxury hotels at the beginning and the end in Prague and Paris, all of our tours everywhere, almost all of our meals. They would even give us lunch money. They would say, it's your money. We're just redistributing it back to you. But when we would have lunch in towns that, where we would spend a day, they would actually distribute, out lunch money so you could go and have an experience in that town. And it was because they were saying, hey, meals are included. So here's your money back to go have your meal. So everything is covered. And it really, when you look at it that way, I think that there's, based on the amount of repeat customers on that trip, I met people who'd been on 40, 50, 60, and even as high as 78 Tauk tours.
Well, it sounds like you and it sounds like a lot of other people, you saw the value. So it's not only not the cost, it's what you get for your dollars. Yes.
So again, find a travel advisor, ask your friends, who do you use? I recommend Susan Moynihan. She's with a company called Largay Travel, and they are a Virtuoso company.
They can make sure that you have a good chance that things go as good or better than expected. Before we close here, a lot of retirees, they finally have the time and money to do what they want. How should they proceed? What's your recommendation for them as far as how to go? What's the next step?
Well, envisioning yourself in the travel space, you have to have a vision for where you're going, right? Just like you do with planning your retirement. If you go about it blindly, you're just sort of letting it happen. But if you can visualize what it is you want, then you kind of come up with a way to make it happen. I think the biggest mistake people make is they plan these trips and they treat it like the grand tour. I would recommend slow travel. Do less. Stay longer and do less. That's my big takeaway. Do less, do less, do less. Stay in one place longer and enjoy it.
Thank you, Megan. Lots of great tips, because if you're a little intentional with your travel, like with your financial planning and retirement planning, you're probably going to have a healthier, a wealthier, and a happy retirement. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends. Share the love. Make sure they have a healthier, a wealthier, and a happier retirement as well. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for free resources and check out our website and social media pages for exclusive content and updates. See you next time.
Sona Financial, LLC, DBA Sona Wealth and Sona Wealth Advisors is a registered investment advisor with the state of Minnesota. All views, expressions, and opinions included in this communication are subject to change. This communication is not intended as an offer or solicitation to buy, hold, or sell any financial instrument or investment advisory services. Any information provided has been obtained from sources considered reliable, but we do not guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any description of securities, markets, or developments mentioned.